Hello, everybody. My name is Cynthia. Welcome to the God Place. This is where we are aware of the beautiful omnipresence of God right here. It's right here, not somewhere else. It's right here. And today I've invited my very, very good friend, Victoria Reynolds, to join me. We're excited. We've been having a great conversation. We should have been recording that. And we're calling this show
Make It Happen.
Make It Happen, because we figured out there are three kinds of people: those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that say, what the heck just happened? Victoria, before we get started, please tell everybody about your Fearless and Free program and how they can get in touch with you.
Okay. So I am a spiritual luminary. I'm an angelic walk-in. I'm the Elohim of freedom embodied, and my purpose on the planet is to help liberate humanity from the fear-based reality we've been living in for many thousands of years. So when people complain about, oh, it's been so bad the last 2 decades, this is a 12,000 year cycle.
Right.
And so we're nearing the end of it. And so I'm here along with thousands of other angels. I am by no means the only one to help liberate humanity from the fear-based reality so that we can move as a collective of humanity, not just a few, not just 144,000 for sure, into this love-based reality that is wanting to be birthed through us. So I'm doing that several ways. I have my Fearless and Free TV show on YouTube. I do my spiritual teaching there as often as Spirit calls to me. And I interview really amazing guests there as well, all focused on spiritual freedom. Then I have on my personal website at victoriareynolds.com, I have all of my books. I have a free book there. It's called Rise Up. It's all about what's happening in the earth field right now, with one chapter dedicated just to terminology for spiritual newbies who are just waking up and they're like, I don't know what that word means. My book you covered. So that's for free on my website. And I also have several other books all about spiritual freedom in various ways. My Own Your True Worth is about navigating your beliefs of unworthiness. We all have them. And my book, Transcending Fear, is my story, my own personal spiritual awakening, which was around the 2008 recession caused my awakening experience, as I know it did a lot of other people.
You do have such a wonderful story of being first brought up in a cult, and then going through what you went through in your young years, and then boom, and that was from your son, which is another story, another show, because we've actually talked about that before, how our children
are, our children are our teachers.
Exactly.
So it's important that when we're raising them, I mean, my kids now are teenagers, but if we have a young family, looking at our children, allowing our children to be our teachers, because they can be our catalysts for the spiritual path we're intended to be on. That was the case with my children. And then I also have on my website, I have something called the 6D money tree. Very few people are talking about 6D. 6D is where creation actually occurs. It's created there energetically, and then it physically manifests here. So we can actually work with the 6th dimension to create our physical reality. Then I have the Transcendence Process. That's a class, that's a 9-week course that I teach people. Those who are, again, spiritual newbies, or those who are really struggling with how to process their pain stories. We all have pain story. it's our story. It's like the backstory. When you go to the movies, you want to know the backstory of the people that you're watching. So every one of us has a backstory. The transcendence process is teaching people how to process their life, process their backstory so that it becomes a source of power in our lives rather than a source of pain. So the transcendence process is a 9-week hands-on course. I'm there through the entire thing. It's only $333. I even break that down into multiple payments if you need it, because I want to make sure that the people who really need to transcend have access to that. So it's called the Transcendence Process. It's based on my personal process, what I did to transcend my own fear-based reality to get to this space of infinite love where I am now.
Which is what Jesus was all about. I think.
Absolutely. He tells me all the time to teach what he taught. I mean,
exactly.
That's why I'm here, to teach what he taught.
Exactly. Jesus, I think a lot of people kind of miss the boat sometimes on Jesus and the purpose of Jesus. Jesus taught all of this to us. All of this to us. And because of organized religion and then people fighting wars because of religion, that's not what Jesus had in mind. He said, love your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, love each other like yourself. It's all there. It's all there. And I think right now, that's what I'm feeling so strongly about. Jesus also told us about the amazing power that we have individually. He said, you can do this too.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this too. And that is so key in the Bible. You can do this too. That means when we do fill ourselves with the Holy Spirit and we allow the Holy Spirit to work through us completely,
Mm-hmm.
you start seeing the world through our spiritual eyes. That's one thing about you, Victoria, that I love. You are no ego there. I've never seen ego pop out of you. You are completely, all of your attitude is very spiritual, very giving, very generous, very loving. I love that about you, and our trips to the beach and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Thank
So
you.
today, what we want to talk about and why I created this podcast, The God Place, is there is so much information out there, everyone. And some people are saying there's 3 ways that people react to this information. They either say that's a big lie,
Mm-hmm.
or they say, wow, I didn't know that. Or they say, interesting, I think I'll do some research on that. And that's where people like yourself and me come together, is those that say, let's do some research, because you can be blasted with a piece of information and you just, what?
Right.
What? And that's what's going on right now. And there's so much information. They have the mainstream media and it's all on screens. You've got mainstream media, you've got the truthers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up to here with all of the ugly, evil things that they have brought forth that's going on in our world, and I can't listen to it anymore. So I created this podcast, The God Place, so that we can show people how to go into the spirit of love. Mm-hmm. And dissolve. When I started hearing about what was happening to the children on this earth, I sobbed and cried for 3 weeks. I couldn't mm-hmm. sleep. It was horrible. And we need to be aware that this is what's going to happen, because most of the world is not aware of the evil that's been going on.
Right.
So let's talk about that, Victoria, about the power of our thoughts and how we need to change our thoughts, and how we're going to have to pull people out of the muck when mm-hmm. they hear what's been going on and they react like we did when we first heard all of the evil, the pure evil going on. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, as you were saying, when people hear information, there is the, I don't believe any of it. Then there's, I believe all of it. And then there's discernment. So there is some truth in everything. There is some truth even in what the mainstream media says. They have to tell some of the truth.
Right.
Not all of it. And in the truther community, I've seen a lot of deception there as well.
Yes.
So they call it the truther community, but I'm sorry, but there's a lot of stuff that's why I call it the so-called truther community.
Right. Right.
I think we need to call it something else because it's not all truth.
It's not.
And we are being asked, I was saying a few years ago, we are now past the information age. That's when like the beginning of the internet, all this information started coming out.
Right.
We're past the information age. We are now in the age of discernment. This is a brand new muscle for humanity. Humanity has never had to use discernment and conscious choice. Those are two things that are new to the human experience, and we're all having to learn how to use this new muscle. So it's like when you go to the gym and work out for the first time and you're really sore. That's kind of where we are at. Discernment kind of hurts, and conscious choice kind of hurts because we've never used it before. And it's something we need to get really good at.
Yes.
So when we hear a story, we got to tap into here. The truth is always inside. The truth is never outside of ourselves.
Right.
So if we're going to another resource and trying to find the truth, you got to go inside. The truth of source, I prefer to use the word source rather than God, just because it's God for me is a religion name, even though I've tried to, as a friend of mine put it, he uses it as an acronym for goodness on demand. I'm like, oh, I like that. Or guidance on demand. I like that. So if you use the word God as an acronym for something that fits, then it no longer has the religious connotations to it, which is very limiting, by the way. I think the way that religion looks at God is very limiting. It's actually limiting God, and it is limiting our ability to create in oneness with source, because we are all love and creation and creativity sourced through each of us. Every single one of us is one with God, not just Jesus, Yeshua, as I prefer to call him, which was actually his real name. Constantine turned his name into it. I'm not even going to go there.
The ah is the divine sound. Ah. Yeah. Exactly.
It is found in both Ma and God, right? It is the
hallelujah. Amen.
It is the breath of God.
It is.
And there's also the hue. So you might hear some people speaking the hue. That ooh sound is actually the masculine aspect of God. The ah is the feminine aspect of God, which is a whole new idea to look at the word hue. Ma. We are all both Hugh and Ma. We are all both the masculine and the feminine. Wow. But it's been it's been manipulated by religion. That art, and it's not to say that religion is bad. I want people to understand religion is not bad.
No,
it's just that the religion and spirituality are two different things, and they don't necessarily mean the same thing. So when I wrote my book, Transcending Fear, that actually I think the opening thing is religion and spirituality are like peanut butter and honey. They've been sandwiched together for so long, many people don't even understand the difference.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I love that analogy. You know,
you can actually separate them.
Right.
If you open up the sandwich, you go, oh, there's the peanut butter, there's the honey. They're perfectly good separate.
Right.
Put them together. When they're not interdependent, but a lot of times dogma is fear-based.
Right.
A lot of religious dogma is fear-based, but it's fear disguised as love. So it's really hard to discern the difference, because it's like how the media says, if you love your family, then you'll get the arm jab, right? Right. Or that kind of thing. So it's the same thing with religion. If there's a condition attached to it,
right?
God's love is unconditional.
Right. Unconditional.
If there's a condition attached to it of, if you don't do this, then this is the response, then you know it's conditional. That is not from unconditional loving source. Exactly. So again, this is where we're looking at discernment. So in our religiosities, there is truth and there's love and there's peace. There are universal truths found in every religion. Right. universal spiritual concepts found in every religion. The difference is being able to discern the fear-based dogma that's attempting to control the divine spirit that's in each religion.
Exactly.
Really
You know,
important for people to
going
be able
back,
to discern
I'd
that.
like to go back to this word source, because, which to me, I love that much more, because when you go back into the Greeks and the Romans, they had gods and goddesses, right?
Right.
And the gods were the masculine and the goddesses were the feminine. But God isn't human, and
Right.
God doesn't have that kind of form. So when you say God, a lot of times people relate to God as
As a
being
man.
angry or being loving or being forgiving or being, all of these are human
Right.
emotions and human conditions, right? But if you think of God as kind of like electricity, just beautiful, beautiful, sizzling love that never changes, kind of, you know, no wonder they worship the sun, because that's what the sun is. The sun
Right.
never changes. It, you know, and then it gets dark and then light and dark and then light, right? Which God, in all of source's wisdom, God source wisdom, gave us a beautiful planet where we've got all these metaphors. We've got the light of the sun, we've got the light of the moon that changes. And just in nature, when we attach ourselves to nature, you and I, when we go to the beach and you see the tide, the waves coming in sets of three because of the moon and the gravity, I mean, all of these things, that is, and in all the empty space is God. And in all the empty space. And when we blow ourselves up a million times, guess what? We're mostly empty space.
Right.
We live in a dense planet. And I believe that our purpose here is to discover love and discover that that is what we are.
Mhm.
We are love. That is our true essence. And when we plug into God, the essence of God, the essence of love, we're not the drop anymore. We're the ocean.
Right.
We're the ocean.
Right.
I love that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about how we can help these people. Victoria, there's it's a very small percentage of us that know what's going on. And when we try to share that information with people, they think we're nutcases, you know, to the point where I've been silenced with
Mhm.
several friends and family. I just can't talk about it with them. They don't want to hear it. And that's what they say. They don't want to hear it. Well, you're going to
Right.
hear it. You're going to hear about it. And when you do, we all know that they're going to be saying, how did she know? And we didn't, right? And
Right.
we, with the love in our hearts, and we've been through the mud and we've cleaned off the mud. So let's talk about how we have to quit feeding our mind with the same dialogue about the children, about the underground tunnels, about the way our income tax never went to America, all of that stuff. How we need to shift that dialogue into the world that we are going to be so blessed with, this beautiful new awakening that's happening. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So I think people really need to understand how powerful this human form is. And I'm going to go back really quick to one thing, and I'm going to go back to this because it's these tie together. Man created God in the image of man.
Yes. Yes.
So man gave God all of the personality and propensity and judgment and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
God is absolute pure divine love. And we are all aspects of that divine love. So we are divine love having a human experience. We need to, one, flip the script about I'm a human being. I'm like, so there are people who say, well, I'm a human having a spiritual experience. It's actually the other way around. We are all spirit having a human experience. So we can flip our own script and go, okay, as spirit having a human experience, how can I see this through the eyes of love? How can I see this through the eyes of God? Rather than, because right now we're trying to navigate all the stuff that's happening in the world through the eyes of being human. And that's why we get stuck in it. So we have to transcend that I'm a human being, have a spiritual experience, and flip that to, if I'm spirit having a human experience, how can I see this through the eyes of source? How can I see this through the eyes of love? How can I see this through the eyes of spirit? So there's that. Now, the other thing to understand is that the human mind is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. This is this divine human blueprint was created as sometimes I call it the great human experiment, because everything that was created before the human experience was created in this divine human form. It was like, okay, we're going to take some of this and some of this and some of this, and we're going to put it in this human form. This human form is capable of creating miracles, as Yeshua was trying to say. Our minds are so powerful, we can create merely by thought. And that is why we need to be impeccable with our thoughts.
Absolutely.
What we think about, we create. So while people, and I've been saying this for the last year, a year ago, Source told me it is no longer our responsibility to wake other people up. It is our responsibility to raise our own personal vibration so that they can wake up, because the more of us that hold of the higher light within ourselves, the more light we spread across the planet, and the more light we spread across the planet, the less likely it is for other people to stay asleep, because darkness cannot exist in the presence of light. You don't go into a room and turn on a dark switch. You go into a room and turn on a light switch. When you turn on the light switch, darkness can't exist. So we have to grow the light within ourselves. When we grow the light within ourselves, everyone else wakes up because they must. It isn't anything we have to do. We don't have to go around trying to wake other people up. I got a very clear message a year ago in January of 2021. Our job of trying to wake up our friends and family is complete. We now let the officials do their job.
Right.
Our role is to raise the light within ourselves. That's why every single one of my episodes I do on my show, hold your light so high others can't help but see their own light. That is what it is.
Right.
Jesus said that.
Yes.
Right? Let your light so shine for all the world to see.
Oh man, yeah.
We have the light of source. It is in our heart, and it's our job to expand that sucker, like so that we all have a light body within every one of us. The more we become our true light body, the brighter we shine.
Ooh, say that again. That thing that Jesus said, because it made me.
Let your light so shine for all the world to see. Don't hide your light under a bushel, right? He was saying all of this, and religion has tried to manipulate it into its own dogma. But if we go back into his teachings and take all the dogma out of it and just look through the eyes of love, what he was really saying, he was teaching us how to set ourselves free.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with religion. Religion was created by men in his name hundreds of years later. He did not start a religion. He started a spiritual movement that was about teaching people how to set themselves free and how to find heaven within ourselves and how to be the light within ourselves.
Be that beacon, because people are drawn to the light.
And he didn't say to people, follow me, I'm the only way. What he said is, follow my lead.
Right. Because good leaders create good leaders.
Yes.
And that's what Jesus did. And the apostles carried on his word. And then 325 years later, all those beautiful, beautiful writings, letters, stories of Jesus all showed up in Nicene. And then a man named Constantine twisted things around and and made a Bible, which we love our Bible, right? Got one right. Here it is.
But there's a lot of stuff in there that's not true and has been misinterpreted.
There is. And there's also a lot of things that have been hiding in the Vatican. like
Yeah.
I mean,
All
like
the basement of the Vatican.
777 books,
And
including
scrolls, like all the Dead Sea Scrolls, like the scrolls and ancient scrolls that are there. It's all there.
It's all there.
And a lot of us, so here's what a lot of people don't understand. There are enough of us now who know what's going on.
Exactly.
They can't pull the wool over our eyes anymore. Like you can't put the sleep mask back on. There are too many people who are awake and aware. There are a lot of us who are both spiritually awake and also aware of the corruption. And we are forced to be reckoned with because we know our light. We know the power of source through us.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of people who are aware of the corruption, but haven't found their own light. There are a lot of people who have found their light, but aren't aware of the corruption. There are those of us who are in the middle, and this is growing exponentially every day.
Yes.
This little sliver of people in the middle who are both spiritually awake and aware of the corruption, and it's growing. It's growing.
Yes.
So a lot of people are leaving their religion because they're starting to recognize that the fear and the control and the corruption that's within their religiosities. Oh. They're discovering they can have a direct connection to source without the middleman of religion. There are a lot of people who are spiritually who are starting to understand, oh, I can see now how the media has been playing me, and they're coming here. I call them the light workers. So the light workers are all waking up on what we've been told we're on opposite sides. That division was created to keep us from unifying. We're now unifying in the middle and saying, let's go. The army of light is waking up. Exactly. And once we're spiritually awake, they can't stop us because we recognize who we really are as the warriors of light that are here to transcend, to help the rest of humanity transcend this fear-based reality. Call it the 3D, call it the matrix, pick a name for it, hell on earth, pick your name for it. I call it a fear-based reality because there's love and there's fear. And the contrast of light and dark exists on our planet. So we're moving out of the darkness and into the light. We're like the seedlings, right? The contrast exists for us to learn and grow through.
Absolutely.
Put a seed in the darkness so that it can germinate. Then once it pops up into the light, it's not going back down in the darkness again.
Absolutely.
So we needed that darkness in order to even see our light. Once we see the light, we're like, oh, okay. Can't go back in the darkness again, but the darkness exists. The fear exists as a medium for growth. That's how we start to look at it through the eyes of love. If we're only looking at the darkness through the eyes of blame and judgment and resentment and defiance and resistance, and those are, by the way, are all fear-based emotions.
Oh, sure.
So you cannot fight fear with fear. It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely.
If you're someone who insists on justice and all those people need to hang, I'm sorry, but you're still in that vibration of 3D.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because the fifth amendment, commandment has no amendment, right? The thou shalt not kill. It doesn't say unless this or unless that or unless this. No.
Precisely. And when Yeshua came, he came to put an end to the law of Moses. The law of Moses was eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. He said very clearly, I am here to bring a new law. Yes. And the new law he brought was the law of love. He brought the law of one, the law of source, which is infinite unconditional love. So one of the things you said earlier, and here's another one of those misconceptions where he taught, love each other as I have loved you, which is pure, absolute, unconditional love. And love each other as you love yourselves. But here's the issue. Very few people know how to love themselves.
Exactly.
They only love each other. They love each other the only way they know how, which is through the eyes of fear and condition and judgment. And so we have to learn to change the relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
Have a loving relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
Not the same as arrogance. It's really important for people to understand self-love and arrogance are two opposite ends.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And when we love ourselves, then we can love others the way we love ourselves. And the way that we do that is to understand that we are all divine love embodied. When we love the God source within ourselves, then we can see others through that unconditional love of who we actually are. Absolutely. As divine love having a human experience.
You know, I had a Christian ministry when the kids were little. And one thing that we taught the children was when somebody is being ugly to you, then you say, because it was a bully thing, we would say, what do you say when somebody's being mean to you? And they would all say, you must be having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Because trying to show the compassion, because people will show you how much they love themselves by the way they treat you.
Absolutely.
So if somebody is loving to you, then they understand their value and the love that they have to give. When people feel unloved and that there's that darkness, but that's we are in a world of contrast. And we were given this beautiful human experience to discover that we are love. That it's that simple.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
So every single one of us ultimately have the same life purpose. And people ask me, they'll I'll have a client that will come and have a personal session with me, and they'll ask me about their life purpose. And so our souls each have a reason for being here, which is, okay, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to have a life purpose and then a higher purpose if I'm willing to accept it.
Right.
So there's that as each one of us as an aspect, like you were saying, a drop of water in the ocean. So each one of us are an aspect of source. Another way of putting it is that each one of us are a rainbow, or each one of us are a ray of light from the sun. So you can't see the individual rays of light from the sun, like all we see is sunlight, but each one of us is a ray of light within the sun. So the same kind of idea. We're all a drop in the ocean. We have our own unique emanation of spirit, but we are all spirit.
Exactly.
So as a unique emanation of spirit, we have a role that we want to play in the human experience, because we all have a role in this video game. That's an easy way to put it.
It's a good way to put it.
Right. If you picture that we're playing the most complex video game ever played, and each one of us is a player in the game. And we all have a role, and every person's role is vital to the entire experience. No person's role is more important or less than another person's role. So we all came here to play a role. And the overarching purpose is to go down there into the darkness and see if we can remember our light, and to go down there into the fear and see if we can remember the love of who we are. It's like the ultimate challenge. Am I going to be able to remember who I am within the contrast? And once you do, oh man, it is so good.
It's good.
Once you figure it out.
It is good. You know, something that I started doing, I went to Disneyland not too long ago with my grandchildren. And of course, you know, we've heard those stories of Disneyland and children. And every time I had a completely different experience. I always loved to go to Disneyland, but every child I saw, this beautiful, innocent child just enjoying Disneyland, you know, that's exactly God's intention for creating this earth as a big Disneyland. But I started thinking about what we're hearing about children, and I had a different experience than I have before. And that's what I'm talking about, is and it's because of the knowledge that we've gotten about the evil that's happening on this planet. I looked at every child as like, how can anybody even think of harming a child at all? Right. And so it was a different experience, but I started saying, and my thought would go there, and I would say, Jesus, fill me with your light. Jesus, fill me with your light. Jesus, fill me with your light. Fill me with your light. Fill me with your light. And I would do that mantra until that thought would dissolve. It would just go like a little puff of smoke, just psh. And then I saw the child as a little brand new human spirit having the human experience, you know, wide-eyed, and there's Mickey Mouse and there's all that stuff. And whatever you hear about Disneyland or any of that stuff, I don't care. I still love Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, because we're going to hear all kinds of little goofy things. And it doesn't mean it's our, just because something means something in the occult,
right?
It doesn't mean that has to have the same meaning for you.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. And I think people need to understand that. So it's one thing it's one thing to know about what's playing out in the contrast. That's what it's a way of being able to explain the darkness. Call it evil, fear, darkness, whatever. I prefer to use the contrast because we're all here experiencing contrast.
I do too.
So I'm not going to energize it by calling it names. People need to understand when they focus on the contrast, they are actually feeding it.
Exactly.
We have to stop feeding it.
Exactly.
So we can recognize it. I see you over there. And you know what? My role is to transmute it. So if I go to Disneyland, I know the contrast is there. I'm there to transmute the contrast. And that's what you were doing with what you were doing with Jesus. We're here to transmute the contrast. Yes, be aware of it. Do not feed it. Because we create our reality. The more we focus on what's happening in the darkness, we actually sustain that.
Exactly. That's why I created the God place. Exactly. Because you can put yourself in the God place anytime when you are on. It's simple. Just be aware that you are love. That is your essence. That is your authentic self. And anything other than that is not part of your reality. Right. You have to push that away. And the more that we do that, we were talking about justice and thou shalt not kill. In my perfect scenario, a big old spaceship comes down and just sucks up all those bad people and takes them somewhere else to another planet where they can deal with each other and over there.
And that actually has happened, by the way.
Because that's what needs to happen.
So Ezekiel, Lord Ezekiel, you might remember him from the Old Testament. He has a spaceship.
Right.
And he's been coming here since February of 2018 and removing the negative entities from our planet. So that's all that's left, like the clearing out of all the beings that lived in all of the tunnels, they're gone.
Yes. Good.
They're gone.
That's good.
All that's left are those that are on the surface, and they're still on the surface because we as a collective of humanity need to raise our vibration to be able to remove them. We are actually the ones we've been waiting for. We have to stop waiting for somebody else to rescue us.
Right.
We are actually it. Our vibration, our resonance is what will show them out.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. Because of our vibration,
right,
they won't be able to hide in the dark corners anymore.
Exactly.
That's what's going to expose them. People keep asking where they're going to be exposed. Well, they're going to be exposed as soon as we raise our vibration up enough for them to be exposed.
Exactly.
So they're not going to be exposed while we are feeding them the energy that they feed off of, which is the fear and the anger and the resistance. They feed on that energy. Exactly. We have to do the work inside ourselves to not feed that. When we raise our own vibration, when we remember that we are love here to transmute the fear and we are light here to transmute the darkness, they can't hide anymore because they cannot hide in the light. It's impossible. Exactly. You want to know when they're all going to be exposed? It's up to us.
Right.
Being the resonance of who we are, that's actually going to expose them.
Exactly.
Not someone else exposing them.
No. Or you can't wait for God. You can't wait for Trump. You can't wait for...
Because we are. Yeah. We are divine love.
Yes.
We are God sourced through each of us.
Yes.
We are the divine intervention we seek.
Yes.
It's us.
Yes.
God is working through us. And we know that. You go right down through it, and we know at the very core of our being, we know that. When a miracle happens in our life and we're like, wow, an angel showed up in my path and created a miracle. That's how God works. God works through every single one of us.
Exactly. I always said that Jesus, the sword of Jesus is love.
Yes.
That's the sword of Jesus. And Jesus never said fight. In fact, he said, love your enemies. Mm-hmm. And that's tough because a lot of what's going on right now is people are saying, we got to fight. No, you don't. We got to love.
That's right.
And it's tough for the human psyche to understand that God loves these evil people just as much as God loves us.
Because God's love is pure, absolute, unconditional.
Love.
And then because human beings keep trying to place our judgment
Right.
onto these people and understand that God does not hate anything,
No,
any of its creations.
no,
It is
no.
impossible.
You know, the story of Jesus on when Satan took him up on the mountain, said, "This could all be yours. You can have all the power. This can all be yours." That's unfortunately what our politicians did. They went,
Yeah.
Satan took them up to the mountain and they said, "I'm in, sign me up." And then Satan said, "Well, now that you're in, now you're going
Here's
to
the
do
deal.
this
Yeah.
and listen, I own your soul."
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these people that we're hearing about, Victoria, that have succumbed to the temptation of Satan, they didn't start off that way. They
Absolutely not. And here's
started
what
off
people need to understand. So love your enemy actually means to send them love,
right.
right? If we are the source of love sourced through each one of us, we send them love. We wish them well. Most of those people, not all of them, obviously some of them are too far gone. They've made a soul contract and they won't be able to stay here because they can't, because the resonance of this planet is rising so high, they can't be here.
Right.
The planet won't sustain them being here. It doesn't have to be us. Planet herself, her vibration is raising to the point where those who work in the dark won't be able to, it just won't be sustainable here.
Mhm.
They talk about the word sustainability, as they want to sustain their own stuff, right?
Mhm.
But what they're trying to do isn't even sustainable for them, because the planet is the vibration itself is to the point where it's all about beyond sustainability. It's about prosperity. It's about reconstructing the earth back to the garden that she once was. It's more than sustainability. Sustainability just means the ability to sustain. And I'm sorry, but mere sustenance just isn't good enough for us. We're not here to sustain the status quo. We're here for something even bigger and better than that. And because what they're doing isn't supported by Gaia herself, Mama Gaia, as I call her Mother Earth.
Mother or
Mother
mommy.
Earth, she's our mother, right?
Right.
She has said to me, and I do communicate with her sometimes, she is a sentient being just as much as the rest of us, a soul having an earth experience. And she said to me about 10 years ago, I will continue to allow human beings to use me until the time where I'm no longer going to accept it. And she's at that point where she's no longer willing to accept it. And so those who are here using her and abusing her either need to change their ways and remember who they are as love having a human experience, or they are no longer welcome to live here. Most of them have the ability to change, because it isn't about changing. This is one thing I really started to understand. Nobody changes when they get older and they suddenly have a spiritual awakening. What they do is they remember who they were.
Exactly. That they knew when they were babies.
Right.
When you see a brand
They
new
remember
baby,
who they came in as and let go of everything they are not. So we build layer upon layer upon layer of who we are not on top of this light being we came in as. When we have that spiritual awakening, we start peeling off all of those layers of who we are not, and we remember who we really are.
I want to
So
share.
when people say, "Oh, it's impossible for people to change," I'm sorry, but it is.
Yeah.
I used to think that was impossible for people to change after a certain age.
Yeah.
That is so not true.
Oh, it's not true.
It's that people remember who they are. So some of what people would call some of the worst people are just broken people.
Oh,
they're just people who are disconnected from the truth of who they really are. And almost every person on this planet can be rehabilitated with love. There are those at the very, very, very top, and that's very, very top. It's like a 0.1%, very small number of people who aren't rehabilitatable, and they will be removed from the planet. In fact, some of them have been.
Yeah.
But most of who remain are people who can be healed.
Absolutely.
With infinite love and with infinite light, and they can remember who they are. They just need the light to show them the way, and they just need to remember that they are love embodied. Our role isn't to wake them up. Our role is to send them love, right? Love your enemies, send them love, that they will be healed All beings have the ability to be healed. That's what Jesus was trying to teach as well. Anyone can be healed through their own faith. And that, so our role is to light this place up, right? Light up the frickin' planet with our lights, and to send waves of love out of our heart that transmutes the fear so that everyone's heart can be awakened. And that's our job. It isn't about trying to shake people awake. It's about our love, our light, our resonance that actually wakes people up. And as they wake up, I don't think there's anybody on the planet that hasn't gotten inklings of this.
Oh,
you have to be hiding under a rock to not get inklings of what's going on. So right now people are seeing it and they're hearing it. They're calling it conspiracy theory. When it comes out as the truth, there'll be people who go, oh my gosh, that's real?
yeah, exactly.
But it's not going to come as a complete shock to anyone because it's been dripped. A spirit showed me a couple of years ago. They've been dripping the information so that when it does all come out, it doesn't completely blow people away. Right. So another reason they're like, yeah, it's a conspiracy theory. You need to check your resources, right? Your sources aren't any good, like that kind of thing. We're having that conversation of my source is the true source and your source isn't. But so there isn't anybody this is kind of going to come as a complete shock to. How bad it is, I think, will come as a complete shock to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And we need to not focus on how bad it is. We got to go back to that, because the more we focus on it, the more we actually create it. Because we are, the way that we are made in the image and likeness of God is that we are all creators.
Yes.
What sets us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom, if you will, is that we are creators. That is what is unique to human experience. Inside every single one of us is a desire to create. That's why we're always wanting to make the world a better place, right? I want to make leave the world a better place than I found it. I'm here to make the world a better place. We are all creators. When we're creating, that is where we thrive. That's where we get excited about life. We're creating. What people don't understand is that every thought we have is creating. So if every thought we have is focused on the darkness that's happening on the planet, our creative energy is actually creating more of that darkness.
Absolutely.
So,
and
right? So it's one thing to be aware of it. It's like, I see you over there. I'm not going to feed my energy into it. Where I'm going to feed my energy is the world I want to create. It's important to recognize the darkness. So it's just to know that it's there. I see you. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to use my creative genius. I'm going to use the creation that is sourced through me to create the world I want to see.
Exactly.
I'm going to put all of my creative focus on that. And here's one thing. So I was speaking with a client yesterday, and she said, I don't have enough time to do both my job and to look at everything that's happening in the world. And I said, that's because that's not your role. I said, you do your job. And then when you have the time, stop going down the rabbit holes and watching these shows that talk negative. Use that time to change yourself, right? Use that time to go within and re-become the divine being you are within. You want to change the world and create a new reality, it starts inside yourself.
Yes.
When you do that inside yourself, the new world will start to manifest.
Yes.
As a response, automatic response to the work we do with inside ourselves.
Yes.
So if you're using all of your spare time to watch all these negative shows and to read all the negative stuff, you're feeding that.
You're keeping it alive, right?
And you're keeping it alive. Now you can look at it differently, like you did. You go to Disneyland. It's like, you know what? I know that there's darkness happening here. I'm going to be the light to transmute it. And you can walk through Disneyland and say, I'm sending love to everything.
I am the love.
I'm the light, everything here, right? I am the light. I am the way.
Right.
Not in arrogance. Now, Yeshua didn't have an ounce of arrogance in him. And he might have when he was a child. Come on. We all have that to wrangle with. But he got to a point where he could go through life without any ego at all and understanding, I am the light and I am the way. I am too, and so are you. All of us are the light and all of us are the way, because we're all divine source moving through each and every one of us. He was trying to teach that to people, and religion turned it into him being the only one. He's made it very clear to me that was not what he said.
Thus, Christ consciousness.
Correct.
The word
We're all
Christ
Christ
consciousness means that you live your life as Christ lived his life.
But he wasn't the Christ. He was a holder of Christ consciousness as well.
Right.
That's why his name was Yeshua ben Joseph. That was his name. He got named the Christ because of the Christ consciousness he carried within him. And it exists within every single one of us once we wake up to it and realize, oh, I am the light. Oh, so every one of us is the return of Christ because we are all Christ consciousness within.
Exactly.
And so instead of waiting for somebody else to come to our rescue, remember that we are all that. We're that. We're the Christ consciousness returned through each one of us. We are all the second coming of Christ inside of every single one of us. And that when we grow that light within ourselves and we let go of everything that is not that, and we get to the place of pure love, pure light, pure bliss, pure divine love source through each one of us, and ego then feels safe because ego's not the bad guy. Ego just wants us to be safe. It is our protector. It's built in as part of the sphere-based reality to protect us from
the flight fight.
Right. So once the ego feels safe with our divine love and our divine light, it's not going to get in our way anymore. We can say, I am the light and I am the way. And the way to God is through me. And so it is with each of you.
And that's what Jesus was all about.
That's what he said.
That's what Jesus was all. So in closing, Victoria, what would you recommend to people who are awake, half awake? What would you recommend? I would recommend that they listen to your show. Or come to the God place, right?
And I am going to start teaching more. I got very clear guidance. I need to interview less and teach more.
Right. And exactly. So
and I have a new weekly episode that is germinating right now.
Good.
That's going to be a divine masculine that's going to be on screen with me.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So we're going to be bringing the divine feminine and the divine masculine. It's really, 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 really important for people to understand. But we need to have both, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's funny. I was out walking with him yesterday, and he's got on the black leather jacket and the black sunglasses, and I'm walking with this soft, fuzzy white jacket, and I started laughing. I said, "Oh, here we are, right here. I've got on this super soft white fuzzy. I bring the soft, and he brings the oof, right? I bring the and he brings a whoo."
I love that. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Back. I love our conversations. Everybody focus on the light, focus on the love. Know that God wins. Holy cow. God, there's no contest there.
Well, and it's not even that. And here's a closing thing to think about. Everything is God. Yes. God does not win against itself.
Yes.
Right?
All is God.
All is God.
Yes. Be still.
There's just this one aspect of God that's like having a 2-year-old temper tantrum.
Yes.
And so it's not like God's going to go smite the 2-year-old, because we would never do that to one of our children. What we might do is pick up that broken, hurt child and say, I love you.
That's right.
Be still. Remember that I love you.
Yes. And we can do that for each other.
And let the darkness subside.
Absolutely. I love you.
God does not hate Satan. Sorry, people.
No.
God loves that too.
If it wasn't for Satan, we wouldn't know our light.
That's true.
And that's the human experience. We said, put me in the game, God. I want to know myself as you.
That's right.
And that's why we're here. I love you, Victoria.
I love you too. I'm so looking forward to seeing you in a few days.
Oh, I'm coming to Redondo. Yeah. I love you. Thank you so much.
I love you too. You're welcome.